In Minecraft seed finding communities, possibly the single most asked question by newcomers is what is the rarest seed? But often, when people less experienced with seed finding ask this question, they're met with sarcasm or even just ignored. Why is that? Is it really that hard to define rarity when it comes to a Minecraft seed? Well, the answer is yes. A very big yes, actually. So in this video, I'll be detailing all the reasons why the question is so hard to answer and why no rarest seed actually exists. But before that, I'd like to ask you to consider subscribing to the channel. I try and release a new video every week, so if you like these kinds of Minecraft World Gen videos, mull it over while you watch this one. Thanks. Alright, let's go over a bit of background info on seeds. Minecraft has 2 to the 64 possible seeds that can generate a world. That means over 18 quintillion possible world seeds, and every seed is unique. Some seeds will share a few things like structures, but most things are pretty much 100% unique. So it seems like the answer is just to look through them all for the rarest, but how does one actually do that? Immediately, we're met with 2 massive problems. The first one is actually searching the seed. How exactly are we supposed to search the entire world for everything that could make a seed rare? A Minecraft world is 60 million by 60 million blocks wide and 384 blocks tall. Would we need to compute all 1.38 trillion blocks in a Minecraft world? Not even counting the nether and the end, just simulating this much of a world would be near impossible and take absolutely forever. So how about we limit the area of the world we search? That seems reasonable, but where do you draw the line? 1,000 blocks out? 10,000? Any answer is completely subjective. There's no set cutoff that works best for this, and trying to decide on one to be the objective standard would be foolish. Different search areas will make different seeds the rarest. There really isn't a good solution here. This brings us into possibly the biggest problem with such a question, its subjectivity. How exactly do you define rare? Sure, there are some things that can be statistically sampled for their rarity. I sampled 1 billion seeds to calculate biome rarities for a video, but even that isn't perfect. It relies on coverage, which isn't perfectly equal to how rare a biome feels. And even if it was, what do you use this info for? You could sample a huge square of biomes and count them all up, but how do you score them? Do you give them points depending on the rarity of the biome? Do you measure their rarity based on how big the rarest biomes are? Do you calculate the rarity of having a certain number of biomes in the area? Do you do all of the above? Again, it's subjective and there is no real answer. But that scenario only takes into account biomes. You still have to juggle structures, ores, loot, and everything else a Minecraft world has. You would need to come up with a massive system to put everything in the world into a huge formula to spit out some score that would decide the rarity of the world. Again, this would be subjective to the point of uselessness, and never really give us any true info. So, what if you try to take a statistical approach? Maybe you could calculate the odds of everything in the world and then see how rare it really is compared to other seeds. A village might have 1 in X odds to generate here based on the first million seeds. A dark forest has 1 in X odds to be this big, and so on. This search seems a bit better, especially if you limit the search area, but there's a single fundamental fact about these seeds that totally wrecks this method. Every seed is unique. Sure, things like structures can be shared per seed, but every combination of biomes on every seed is totally unique thanks to Zoroshiro 128++. That means every seed has a 1 in 2 to the 64 chance to generate. The exact biome map of seed 0 exists on one single seed out of all 2 to the 64, so it's the most unique. But also, every other seed has that quality too. The question itself begins to completely break down. Rarity doesn't even feel like it has meaning anymore. So how do seed finders actually use the term rarity? Well, the key is to keep everything in proportion to one another. You can't really calculate how much rarer 3 outposts at spawn are versus the largest mushroom island ever found. But you can compare things like biome sizes and structure rarities versus one another. We know that going up by about 200,000 blocks in size will make a mushroom island about twice as rare. We can calculate how much rarer a desert is at 0, versus a plains. But when you rope in too many variables and subjective criteria, that's when the whole discussion breaks down on a fundamental level. This is why the idea of a rarest seed doesn't really make sense. There are rarest seeds in their own category, sure, but things have to stay relative. The Mushroom Island record is the rarest seed based on single Mushroom Island size. The biggest diamond ore vein seed is the rarest based on the size of diamond ore, and so on. But you cannot accurately compare these categories to one another, and it becomes much harder when you sample a world based on every category there is all at once and try and give it a single score. There's simply too much info to work with. So, when new members come into these spaces and ask for the rarest seed, usually they just want something interesting. They want the hardest seed to find, the hardest criteria, the most exhaustive searches. Even this isn't perfect though, because every search has its own unique quirks. There are hundreds of searches that have been started, found what they want, and ended, all with totally unique criteria. You just can't compare every category to one another because some of them are so drastically different. However, seed finders will talk about their rarest finds every now and again, even when comparing totally different categories of seed finding. So what do they actually mean? Usually, it's a mix of a few things. Time searched, knowledge needed, and effort put into the search can all play a role, and I tried to balance factors like these when ranking my rarest finds in my 10 rarest seeds video. Again though, it's just too subjective for a clean answer. My list of my 10 rarest finds could be totally different from how some of you would rank them. But, with all of this said, this is a seed finding channel, and I can't just leave you all without an interesting seed. So I tried my hardest to make a program that would find a seed to be the rarest based on a criteria I thought could be interesting. I decided to go with the biome stats example from earlier. A lot of research has been done on them, and I mostly specialize in biome searches. I made a program that looks through seeds and looks at all the coordinates on a 1 to 64 grid within 5,000 blocks. Then, each coordinate with each biome gets a certain score based on their rarity. Forest has 1 in 8.2 odds, so it adds a score of 8.2. Windswept Gravelly Hills gets a score of 1017 because it has a rarity of 1 in 1017. And so, after running it for about a day, I wound up with this seed as the top result. As you can see, it's absolutely covered in deserts and badlands. My guess as to why this happened is pretty simple. The goal of each seed is to cram the biggest amount of rare biomes possible into the area. More extreme climates make biomes rarer, so it makes sense that the whole thing is the most extreme temperature. My guess as to why high temperature was the one that did so well is because temp extremes can easily cover huge areas like this, and also that the most extreme temperature group, T4, is the rarest. This results in a massive group of rarer warm biomes like Badlands, massively inflating the score. I did try a few other methods of search, modifying the score per biome with various functions, but all the results were still just massive Badlands. These results surprised me quite a bit. I was expecting a seed with a lot of biome diversity, tons of rare biomes like windswept biomes, plateaus, etc., but I wound up with a big list of Badlands seeds. This just goes to show that what I would perceive rarity to be, what I find beautiful in a seed, isn't at the top of the list just from raw statistics, which brings me to the final point of the video. Rarity alone doesn't make a seed interesting. I could find a funny looking mountain and claim it's 1 in 18 quintillion just because it only exists on this seed, but that doesn't make it interesting, not to me at least. Interesting seeds are subjective. Some search areas and some features just won't click with certain people, and that's okay. The goal of seed finding isn't to impress everyone. It isn't to find the rarest seed and make everyone think less of their own finds. The goal is to have fun, find things that interest you specifically, and have a good time with it, just like any other hobby or pastime. I personally took quite a lot of meaning away from this conclusion, and I hope it may also help some of you put into perspective what really matters in your own projects and hobbies. And with all of that being said, I hope you all have a better understanding of rarity, whether in your own projects or just in regards to how it works with Minecraft seeds. For those who aren't seed finders, a lot of this information is misunderstood or unknown, so this is me doing my part to try and educate the wider community and make some of this info a bit more understood. If you think this video has been helpful in getting that message across, I'd be very appreciative if you'd like or hype it so it can reach more people. Thank you all so very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye, and may you have a wonderful day.